Welcome to the Quality of Mind podcast, where you can explore the pioneering and game-changing understanding that unlocks the secret source to more productivity, peace, and potential. If you're fed up with the conventional echo chamber to personal development and human potential, and if you want to be part of the new breeders of leaders and entrepreneurs, come and explore the before psychology approach, enabling sustainable, wide-ranging transformation in every aspect of life and work, for exponential, not just marginal gains. Hello and welcome to the Quality of Mind Transforming Business podcast series. And today I have an episode lined up with a really interesting guest who we met on the wonderful LinkedIn on a post of my colleague Katrin. And we started having an interesting backwards and forwards on LinkedIn. And we thought, this is weighted on LinkedIn. Let's jump on a podcast together and see where we go. So, Carolina, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Piers. Lovely to be with you.
Well, and we've been having a nice chat so far, but then we think, well, let's get the listeners involved in this. So just before we dive into what I hope will be a really fascinating exploration for people, can you give listeners just a couple of minutes overview of you and how come you got to where you got to and what you do in the world? That'd be fantastic.
Lovely. Okay, thank you. So as a child, I was one of those irritating children that, always challenged everything. There's got to be a better way. And it was funny. I've always had this big picture view. So even when my parents were squabbling, when I was tiny, I had the big picture. I could see what was bugging them, but that they didn't know. And they were, I could get to the root cause and they were seeing the symptoms. So it's kind of progressed all my life. I've learned to play in the system, the school life, whatever, and to fit in, but always take the big picture view. Why is this happening? What's creating it? What's causing it? But ultimately, always, what could we do differently that would be better? So I kind of gave up on traditional education after A-levels because I couldn't see the point. I wanted to do something really that resonated with me where I could make a difference. So for those of your listeners who may have read The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, one of my favorite books, I was like Santiago, the shepherd boy. I went off on an adventure. I decided that I was going to travel the world to find out what was it that I was trying to apply this big picture perspective to, on what was creating all these dissonances in the world. So exactly like Santiago, after a period of time, having done all the traveling across the deserts, the oceans, etc., had all the dramas, I came back home only to realize it was all the experiences, the dramas, the highs and the mostly lows that had created in me and what I call an inner standing of what was going on in the world and where the dissonances were and where I might make a difference. I then went into, that's to say I went through interior architecture, construction, financial planning, investment advising. I was an international headhunter in the Asia Pacific region for IT, set up and run businesses for other companies. But the ultimate thing that really bugged me was leadership. Wherever I looked, whatever area of society, it was service to self versus service to others. And I thought, come on, there's got to be a better way. So I went into coaching. I was one of the pioneers. It was 1999, 2000. And so I spent the next 10, bit more years hitting my head against the wall, thinking, yes, I can make a difference here. I can make a difference, bringing in my more holistic perspectives because I'd moved into a more spiritual understanding myself. And then realized you cannot fix a problem at the same level of thinking that it's originated at. These poor leaders are all stuck in a system. So even the exceptional, the 1% who I work with who were really committed, they kept getting dragged back into this system where they were trapped. And ultimately, it was only the free thinkers, the entrepreneurs, the people that dared to reinvent systems were the ones I wanted to work with, that I knew where I could support them, enable them, provide mentoring and coaching where I could make a difference. And as a very quick overview, brings me to where I am today with my work, where I see that humanity is at the edge of a huge quantum leap in change. We're moving from the old Newtonian science, where everything is about man conquering our external world through effort, through mental, physical effort. We master and mold our external world into the success we've been told to aspire to. Whereas now we have access to a shift in frequency that's happening on the planet, demonstrated through the Schumann resonance, if nothing else, plus consciousness, where we have access to the quantum field, which resonates at a higher level. And we can access this field to bring in a new frequency of experience. We match our body intelligence, our heart intelligence to lead us versus relying solely on the head. And we co-create with the field, and it's effortless, it's instant, it's joyful. Who doesn't want to live a life of where we enjoy it? It's not just you go to work, you're successful, you make money, and then you go home, and if you've got any energy left, you enjoy it. No, we've got access now to a whole new intelligence, a frequency that if we allow ourselves, we can tap into to enjoy everything in life, not just the money that gives us the opportunity to do it.
Wow.
There's the work that I'm doing.
So much in there. Gosh, so much in there. Really fascinating for that nutshell overview. So thank you. And yeah, I think regular listeners will know that this, what we talk about quality of mind and before psychology, kind of points to everything you're saying using kind of different language, and we'll get into that. But it's so great when we just hear it slightly differently, because I totally agree with you in what I think is available for people. It's why we do the work we do with quality of mind. So lots to unpack in there, loads to unpack in there. And the one thing that we were chatting about before we pressed record was almost how hard this is to language in a way that resonates with people.
Yeah.
Because what we're pointing to fundamentally is something ineffable. It's before language or concept. And then when we use a word, like I use like quality of mind or before psychology or aperture, or you have that lovely phrase, quantum-preneur.
Quantum-preneur.
Yeah. And you use sort of other language as well. It's to try and, I guess, get to people to see something before the words that actually makes sense to them in their experience and their felt experience of what it is to be a human being, and particularly to those times when people are more what I would just casually call flow state. You talked about, well, actually we can go to work and enjoy it and feel all that creativity and joy. It's not always a hard slog. Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. And then we're bringing in words like frequency, a wider consciousness. And I suppose what it'd be great to do is to play around with some of the different ways that people might be recognizing that, or some of the language they might hear, and to show that's pointing kind of to the same thing about what's available. I mean, this tagline I have for quality of mind is exponential human potential, because a bit like I think you've pointed to, it's available for us. It is so available. And when we go into the world of work or just day-to-day game of life, it feels like it gets shackled and restricted, and all those leaders who are trying to do the best they can, and have been successful, they've been successful through grinding, psychological effort, almost getting towards burnout. And then again, you sometimes come across people who just seem to be in synchronicity and serendipity and flow, and it's a very different experience. And we're trying to help people go from the sort of from the former to the latter. So let's start with a question. When you talk about quantum, what are you pointing to with that word?
I'm talking to a raised level of frequency. Some people have any spiritual understanding or belief might see it as consciousness. and it's the unified field.
Mm-hmm.
Field of infinite potential and intelligence that we do not tap into with logic. We
Yeah.
tap into it with feeling. And when we feel good, we amplify our base frequency. We are electromagnetic beings living in an electromagnetic world. The unified field is an electromagnetic field. So we ultimately have greater ease because of the heart magnification frequencies to tap in with our feelings versus our logic.
Yes.
So we can co-create, but we need to lift the frequency that we vibrate at, our electromagnetic field. We need to lift that by feeling good. And it is the antithesis of everything we've been taught. We've been taught to succeed in life. You have to work hard. You have to effort hard. You have to think hard. God, it's just, it's all about application, focus, and effort.
Mm.
Whereas when you're working with the field, it's light, it's energizing, but it's present moment. You receive, you feel the feeling that you'll get, you create the feeling. The feeling will allow you to tap into the field, and then you receive information back from the field.
Mm. And regular listeners of Quality of Mind will probably will see that some similarity to what I call expanded and contracted aperture. But also, it's sometimes useful to point to how this just turns up. So I often use, and I'd love to get your view on this, examples of like the effect or the presence that we would have, say, with very young children or animals, maybe horses particularly, because I used to, my grandparents on a farm, etc., where babies, children, horses, any animals, they pick up on, if you want to use that phrase, this energy. So
Yeah.
how come a horse will not go near, and you could see this in equine assisted coaching or just literally by walking into a field, right? Go near someone if they're in what I would call a contracted aperture. If the frequency is lower,
Yeah.
they won't come near you. They will keep their
No, and I
distance.
had a beautiful experience with a horse who just lost its companion a month or two ago. It was grieving and it couldn't calm down. And I just went and stood with it in the field. I didn't touch it. I just
Mm,
stood next to it, grounded myself and talked to it. And gradually its head dropped. It started, chomping,
yeah.
and it started, you could see it was relaxing. And so that is matching energy field.
Yes.
I matched
Yes.
my energy field. I grounded, I was calm, and I matched my energy with its, and well, I entrained its energy in with my energy.
Yeah.
That's what we do as electromagnetic beings.
And babies are the same, young children. I mean, that you're trying to get your baby to sleep at night and you're just stressed going, oh my God, it's really late. Oh, why won't you go to sleep? Go to sleep, go to sleep. Of course, the baby doesn't relax. But I used to find the baby relaxed me. I mean, my kids, they are so, their frequency, to use that language, is so
Pure.
pure. And you can feel that. I mean,
Yes.
when they're newborns, it was just the most magical experience, to look into their eyes. I can think about it now, and you just sense
But,
that,
but Piers, how do they, the difference between them and us is they are at a stage, either as a baby or as an animal, they're either at a stage of development or their beingness is all about being. It's about sensing. So the baby can't express yet, so it's not using the head. Baby is just using its feelings. The animal taps into the energetic field because that's the way they communicate or they pick up information out in the wild of danger or whatever. And so they are much more receptive to these electromagnetic fields and picking up energy.
Yes, and it's interesting because even if we go into the day-to-day world of the business, the business, the business world. So there'll be a phrase like, "Oh, I walked into that room, I could cut the tension with a knife,"
Say that.
or a phrase like that. "Oh, it's a bit
Yeah.
heavy in there," and someone will come into a meeting room or something, and they'll sense it,
Mm.
right? And and it's often when you've been out, you come in and you can sense it. If you've been in it, it's
Yeah.
happening gradually around you, so you probably don't sense it so much. But I think if people are just we become very
Yes. Yes.
decalibrated compared to a baby or a young child, where we don't sense this. Now, what I find a lot with the work we do is I talk about recalibration, and to start to calibrate, not using your head, if you like, to that metaphor of the head, your thinking as to what's going on in this room, you know, and also not trying to use your concepts. So I was a big NLPer for a long time,
Me
neurolinguistic
too.
programming,
Mm.
and therefore you'd look at body language and you'd look at mirror signals. But I was using it looked like to me, I was using my kind of, oh, that person's doing that, therefore I was conceptually trying to do it. Whereas actually, when I just relaxed and intuitively tried to sense the person rather than, oh, let me watch what they're doing with their breathing and that kind of stuff, and trying to manually do it, it didn't work. So tell me what you think about this.
Desensitized.
We get desensitized, decalibrated, but we can go the other way as well. We can come back to getting calibrated.
Yes. So what the prescribed thinking is, it's around age 7. Before age 7, we're very, very receptive to our environment. But by the time we've reached age 7, we've started becoming indoctrinated. It's not a nice word. Inducted into the social mores of what goes on in our culture. So instead of listening to our own senses, we look to the outer world to say, what are the clues I'm picking up on how I should behave in this way? And we start using our brain.
Yes.
Before, we haven't really used our brain. So there are obviously benefits in using the brain, but the not so good advantages are that we desensitize from our feelings. And our whole society and culture talks about feelings being secondary to logic. So we put them on the back burner. We say, yes, they're lovely, they're nice to have, but they're not really essential. When I've done what I need to do, then I'll have the luxury of feeling.
Yes.
And so what I'm suggesting is that we're now coming into a new opportunity where our feelings can come to the fore, and they start creating our environment by tapping into the field and co-creating with the field, putting us in that state of flow. Because I tell you what, I bet you or nobody listening here will have been in flow state when they were unhappy. We get into flow state when we're feeling good, when we're feeling uplifted. The quickest way, if I'm ever feeling low, I'll watch I know this is an awful thing to admit to, a funny animal YouTube clip or something like that, or TikTok, because it instantly you laugh, you're lifting your frequency, and you're giving yourself more of an opportunity to tap into the realm that's around us, the quantum field, and all that infinite potential that is in there. And then with the download that you might get from that, oh, God, I had never thought of that before. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder where that came from. We then can use the head to implement the insight that we've just received. So in my world, we're inverting. In my world, we're going with feelings first, get the high flow, tap into the field, get the insight, then say, okay, head, your roll, your go.
Yes.
Where do we go from here?
Yes. And there's a lovely quote from, I think it's attributed to Einstein, that talks about the rational mind and the intuitive mind. And we made the wrong one the master and the wrong one the servant. And it reminded me of that. But I want to just define a word. Oh my gosh, words. Oh dear. It's a podcast. There's lots of them. You've used the word feeling quite a lot. Now,
Yes.
I often make the distinction, tell me what you think about this, between, and you've also used earlier in the call, in the podcast, you used the word sensing, because often people might hear with the word feeling an emotion, like, which would be anger, sad, jealousy, frustration, pressure, stress, right? And they're kind of what I would call sensation plus label or sensation plus meaning. Now, what we're really talking about is getting more in tune with sensation before the thinking mind has thingified it as, oh, I'm feeling this. Because I think one of the things that I completely agree with you, we don't feel enough as adults, right?
We've lost
we,
it.
we need two things to stop feeling, I think. One is we distract ourselves with our phones, watching Netflix, food, drugs, blah, 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 blah. So we literally distract ourselves away from feeling. And the second thing we can do is conceptualize a sensation into a emotion or a feeling. So we then think our feelings, not feel them, if you know what I mean.
I
So we
do.
would describe them and express them without actually doing the alive dynamic of being in the sensation.
Yeah, yeah. I do agree. I also think that, as you mentioned right at the beginning, words can be our enemy in many ways, in that each of us have grown up seeing life through our own lens. So words have different connotations and reverberations for each of us. So when I say a word, I know what I put behind that word, and what you receive it as will be different. So I think that language can get in the way of us executing our lives, because we get caught up in our head and we go, well, what does that mean? And am I doing that right? And it goes into the head instead of going simply into the heart and saying, breathe and say, how am I feeling right now? Is it an uplifted feeling? Is it a depressive feeling? Am I feeling good? Am I feeling not so good? And just making things more simple. So that throughout the day, we identify the state of feelingness, if I can put it that way, that we are in at any one moment in time, and say, is this where I want to be? Am I feeling expanded and uplifted? And am I enjoying this moment? Is it beautiful busyness, which I heard as a lovely expression this morning? Instead of just being busy, beautiful. But am I enjoying my busyness, or is it exhausting me? Up or down?
Yeah.
And any one moment in time, we can catch ourselves and say, where am I? Am I up or am I down, or am I neutral? Very rarely are we neutral. We're usually one thing or the other, and mostly we're down because we're doing. We're human doings, not human beings. When we're human beings, we can connect into the sensing. When we're human doings, we've lost. We've just focused on the task. And I think it's because we've become human doings that we've lost that sensing capacity of saying, well, how am I feeling? Choose a word to, as you were saying, choose a word to describe how I'm feeling. Oh, it's been such a long time since I sat still and actually thought, well, what is this feeling I'm having right now? We have lost that sensory ability to say who we are in any one moment in
So
time.
here's a question for you then, because sometimes I think I know what you're pointing to there, but let me just check, because I actually think that sometimes labeling a feeling is a distraction from feeling it. So by asking ourselves, what do I feel right now? It's taking us away from the sensing of the feeling into the conceptual meaning making mind. So I actually point to people the other way and say, okay, just feel, sense, vibrational aliveness. You don't need to say, what word is this? Am I feeling up? Am I feeling down? Just do what the baby would do, which, because they don't have a conceptual frame of reference to what is good or bad feeling up and down, but be, if you like, the feeling, the sensation. Recognize that that's all there is, rather than letting the self mind come in and try and determine or define, is it good, is it bad? Now, I do agree there's a noticing that's helpful, but it's I call it neutral noticing. It's literally just a noticing, but without then going further into the psychology to define what that feeling is, because that can take us away from the being fluid and dynamic with it. What do you say to that?
I agree conceptually. I think, however, my experience is that most people are so disconnected from what a feeling is and what it is for them, that it's a starting point for them to notice. And I think when you have never taken any time to stop in any, like every hour you take 30 seconds to just feel, I think when you're starting to do that, it's really helpful to say, well, what am I feeling? And
Yes.
you can say,
Okay.
it does take you into your head, yeah, because you've got to you've got to give it a label, sure. But it's a starting point for me to help people say, is this serving me?
Yeah.
So it for me, when I say up, down, it's not about labeling good, bad. It's just saying, notice. Is this where I want to be? Is this a good feeling to be in? Is this serving the task that I'm doing at the moment? Is this helping me enjoy a beautiful busyness? Or is this serving me to
Yeah.
just say, oh my God, I've got to get this done to do this because I'm scheduled to do that? And so it's just a moment of presence.
I think what you pointed to there, because you may know, nowadays, I didn't used to be, I'm very much an advocate of direct path. But as a first step, what you're saying, if I'm doing like a keynote to people and I'm just trying to give some psychological access points to this, what can look very profound, you're absolutely right. I would ask people, I would suggest people use their feelings as a sensation indicator to give them just a little clue of where they're at.
Mm.
Later on, I would then
And
tell
then
them,
choose, is this good for me or not?
yeah, as you say, a little cue. I use the metaphor of if you're driving down the road and your car goes out of the lane, you can get the little bumpy rumble strip. It goes boom, 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 right?
Mm.
Or modern cars now will beep at you. You're out of your lane, and using our sensations just to show us when the aperture's getting contracted, they're helpful. So just checking in and going, hang on a minute, where am I at? For the
Yes.
sensation. So because we are very much conditioned, aren't we, that stress, something like pressure or stress or whatever comes from an event or circumstance,
Mm.
right? So, I'm so busy, I'm pressured, or this, or I'm stressed, or no wonder I'm this because that happened to me. Now, what I sort of would point people to say is, actually, those feelings and sensations are just indicators of your quality of mind in the moment. That they're like a traffic light. They're telling you
Yeah.
not what's going on in the outside world of events and circumstances or anything like that. They're just telling you, hey, that's where you're at the moment. Like
Yes.
that's where your aperture is. So
Yes.
that bit of noticing that you're pointing to, if people are not even aware of that yet, that can be a useful step on the way. But I wouldn't then just stop there, because then you can get into then just thinking your feelings rather than, you know, um,
It's called, I
saying what's
call it
before them.
embodiment. You actually connect in with your body and feel. You can do a quick scan of your body
Yeah.
because,
And
and I do grounding exercises as well, because that links you into the Earth's resonance, and the Earth has an electromagnetic field that feeds our electromagnetic fields.
it's interesting, that, isn't it? Because people, I mean, here's a very simple one. Um, I like hanging the washing out in my bare feet in the morning.
Mm.
I go out in my bare feet in the grass. I've got a little lawn, and just spending 2 minutes in the bare feet in the lawn, on the soil, you feel grounded.
You are grounded.
Yeah.
Do you know,
So
since we've had all the electromagnetic frequencies and we've got rubber soles on our shoes, because in the past, we had leather soles and we'd instantly be constantly re-energizing ourselves from the earth. Now we've got the electromagnetic bombardment from satellites and towers and Wi-Fi, this, that, and the other. It interferes with our fields, and therefore we need that grounding
yeah,
practice.
and I think, in case people think, oh gosh, are they going down some conspiracy theory? No, we're not talking about that. We're saying try this out for yourself. Anyone try this out. And it's so simple, this, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is that when we've had a day of being on our devices, being kind of very sedentary, or just, in our working heads or whatever, you go outside into a bit of nature, feel your feet on the ground,
Mm.
right? Ideally without shoes on. It's, for most people, not everyone, because some people will be really caught up, but most people will feel, let's call it, general word, better, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why we go out for a walk at lunchtime.
Mm.
That's why we like being in nature. Even if you don't understand all the stuff we're talking about, just from a very experiential purpose, it feels better.
And we live in a world of frequency. We cannot avoid it. You know, we have a frequency, nature has a frequency. When there's an alignment, it feeds us. When there is
Yes.
dissonance, obviously it depletes us. So to be aware of what can get into your field, hence, I'm not talking conspiracy with electromagnetic frequencies. There is science behind this.
Yeah, absolutely.
It will disturb your field.
Yes. And how would you then say, and this could go down a red herring, let's not try to.
Try to.
Let's say some people might say, well, when I'm around that person, it feels heavy, or it feels, I don't like being around them, that it feels aggressive, it feels heavy, blah, blah, blah. And the other person, say, for example, yeah, I just love hanging out with them. It's kind of light. It's kind of, it uplifts me. Now, what would you make about that?
Well, again, it comes back to the frequency they're holding in their vibrational fields. I mean, I'm sure all of your listeners at one stage or another, whether they believe in it or not, have seen aura photos with different colors in them, and some that are just around the body and some that are expansive. The person that has the strongest electromagnetic field, the aura, the highest frequency, will entrain others who come into their field. Now, if you go into somebody's field who has a restricted field and it's fairly heavy and dense, you'll repel them. But if you're going into somebody's field that's good, expanded, and positive, you'll attract them.
Mm. And what I want to point to on this is, and see if you agree with me on this, Carolina, is it might look like it's that person, right? They are that, and another person is that. Now, to me, it's more to do with what I describe as the in the moment aperture. So if that person in that moment, so I'll give you an example. A few years ago, I was driving along, and I don't quite know how it happened, but I think I might have, I don't know whether I did or didn't. I think I might have cut someone up on a roundabout. I don't quite remember how it happened. But next thing I know, this person is driving alongside me and absolutely shouting at me and
Road rage.
giving me all of this stuff. And I was, we didn't hit each other at all, but I'd done something I wasn't quite aware what I'd done that had really upset him. And I remember he pulled alongside me, his window down, and it felt really, I could feel this heaviness, this kind of negative vibes coming flying out of the car, right? And I was like, oh, wow, this is charged, is what I thought. And I just apologized, said, look, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do anything. If I did, I blah, 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 blah. And then after a little conversation, it was quite short, I could feel it slightly changing, it didn't go up. So I think what we're pointing to is we're not trying to say people are always this or that.
No.
People might have a tendency to.
I think that people who are more self-aware, you will probably find have a more sustained positive energetic field because they're conscious that their feelings affect their emotions, affect how they feel in their body and on what's going on around them. So they will choose to feel more positive and interact with others more positively, and they will have a more sustained positive field. And we all know people like that we love being with because they're just generally nice people to be around. And there will be a group of people who have sustained less positive energies. But of course, we can all spike. We can all go one way or the other. I mean, when I found my hot water wasn't working this morning, mine definitely descended quite a few notches. But it's about, I think it comes back to that awareness of knowing that we can impact not just our energy, but those around us. Do we choose to take responsibility to do that?
And just noticing it's a variable, I think, that can make a real difference. And also, I think there's a beautiful intelligence in the system that does allow the system to self-correct, right? So firstly, just to reassure people, from what I can see, is that we are, firstly, what I call feeling proof. So the fact that we might experience some of these heavier, more emotionally charged things is okay. It's not like, oh my God, I'm going to damage me, right? We are, it's not possible to have a feeling we can't have, right? So if we can have the feeling, we're feeling proof. Yeah, it doesn't damage us permanently. It can make a difference to our body chemistry, and it might make a difference to our nutritional, the way the gut works, all that kind of stuff. But the system is designed to feel, right? We are feeling machines. So we don't need to go, oh my gosh, I've been feeling this. What have I done? If I it's not like you can scratch the Teflon on our frying pans, to use a bad metaphor. We are feeling proof, and the system, once it recognizes that, will self-correct, if you want to use that language. It will come back to this more higher frequency. That's what I see.
Well, I agree. I do agree. I'm just thinking about how I might express that slightly differently. We are all humans,
Mm-hmm.
so we are going to fall off the. I was going to say fall off the ladder. That's not quite the metaphor I was looking for. We are going to fall over from time to time and allow our emotions to carry us away. But the more aware we become of the value of mastering our emotions, the quicker we will recover, and the quicker we get to choose who we want to be versus allow external environments to determine it for us. And yeah, I was just going to go down a rabbit hole, but for the sake of you and your audience, I'll save you on that one.
Well, there's many rabbit holes,
there.
and I was about to go in a rabbit hole because I was going to start talking about the word choosing, and regular listeners will know how many episodes I've done on free will, and I think choosing, to me, there's an impersonal choosing where there's an appearance of choice rather than a separate chooser. But I think what we're pointing to here, without getting into the rabbit hole, is once the system is more tuned in and calibrated to this, there is more appearance of choice in how he responds to. So, for example, the person with the road rage, right? Possibly, if that they had a greater degree of awareness, their responsibility would have increased. Their ability to respond would have more choices would have arisen in their mind, rather than shouting at me and calling me names and flicking of things. They could have just gone, oh, excuse me, mate, do you realize what you just did? Maybe be aware next time, kind of thing, right? That response may have been in the system, whereas it wasn't at the time. So the ability for us to be less, what would appear less victim to that, we have more ability to respond in a way that will make things better, I suppose, or not get caught up so much. Now, one thing I do want to talk about with you just before we kind of get to the end of this is, because you pointed at something, and this could go down an interesting rabbit hole. Let's see.
I've been holding myself back, Piers.
That's good.
Well,
listeners, we both have. I don't know whether they're. We'll get some feedback and see whether it's been a useful thing to hold back on or not. But you mentioned something I think is fascinating around, let's call it, the direction of travel of humanity, and what you're seeing in that. Now, you've been around this body form for a few decades, right? I mean, I'm in my 5th decade. I don't know what you're in, but you've been around probably a few. What have you noticed in the direction of travel of humanity? Let's go there just for a bit.
Well, I think there's a distinct polarization. There are those who allow themselves to be swept along by the narrative, global feelings and narratives. And there are those who are taking more self-responsibility to choose who they want to be and where they want to go. And for me, that is very encouraging, because it's the minority that affects the majority ultimately.
Mm-hmm.
We only need a small amount of percentage of the population to influence the whole. And the more people say, enough already, I don't accept that this is the only way, I'm now choosing a new way, this works for me, I feel good, it works for those around me, I think that is incredibly encouraging. I think we've still got difficult years to go ahead in the next few years, but I think ultimately we have a real opportunity for humanity to come together in the unified field, because we are all connected as one. Whatever we think, speak, our behaviors all feed into the field. And at some level, people will be picking up on that. And the more people can consciously feed into the field, the more positive emotions that they wish to experience, they will also be transmitting them to everybody else. So I see that we have a positive future ahead of us, but I would like to see more people choosing consciously to take the more compassionate, creative, collaborative route. And by that, I mean also co-created with the quantum field, the consciousness field. So they recognize they are part of it. They consciously contribute to it with awareness so that we can speed up this shift. Because I do see it as a real quantum leap shift from thinking to feeling to being connected to being divisive. And
it's interesting.
win-win.
I mean, what do you think about this? I mean, I would say, and this, of course, my own mirrors in this, so that's why I like to hear from other people. But I would say, compared to when I was doing this work 10, 15 years ago, there's just, it looks like to me, there's more people closer and willing to have the conversation in this direction than there used to be. Now, that might just be me in my echo chamber, right? But what do you notice over the last, say, 10, 20 years?
Well, I would agree, but I still think there is a splitting.
Polarization, you mentioned.
Yes. I still think there is an increasing divide occurring between those who are choosing and those who aren't. It's almost like a ping off the ways. And there are many ways being used to describe that, which I won't go into, but I'm sure you know what I mean. It's uplifting because you can see that more people want to choose a positive way, want to find the solutions. But we're still subject to the systems in which we find ourselves, which are constraining and constrictive, and work with the old paradigms. And I believe that we need to let those go. We don't need to fix them. We need to recreate the new one, which is part of what I feel committed to supporting the of. Yeah.
And just to sort of finish off then, so when you're working with your clients, the people you coach and mentor and work with in the business world or in the world of societal change, what's your ideal client in a way? Look, where are they at? And maybe gives a little bit of flavor of what you're helping them recognize, which they may have already got a little hint of, and hence why they've come to see you.
The people that I work with there are two levels, but on the basic level, they've had enough. They've fed up of striving. It's like there isn't anything that flows. It's all about hard work. It's all about exhaustion. It's all about effort. When do I get to enjoy my life? And I believe that by working, co-creating with this new potential that's available to us into the unified field, I mean, we are giving computers the opportunity to go quantum, but we each have an innate capacity to link into that field. We have an innate portal within the physical human body, actually sacred heart next to the heart, that is an instant access point, but there are other access points we can create. So people want ease, they want flow, they want to enjoy their life. They don't want to spend all their time investing in success as it's been told they should have and they deserve, but at what cost? The cost is too high. So people are now looking for, they're also looking to their children and grandchildren. What is the legacy I'm going to? It's not about the doing this. It's not about giving of the money. It's not about, this is at the other end of the people I work with. It's not about mentoring. It's not about sitting on boards. It's about me becoming the change
Mm.
Adopting a new operating system as a role model in society where others go, wow, look at what he or she is doing. That's fabulous. I want some of that.
Mm. Yeah, I so resonate with that, and it's interesting you use that word at the beginning there, striving, because my latest course I'm just creating is called Striving to Thriving, because I just absolutely see that on with what you're saying, and also on the other sort of people you work with is people who want to be almost. I'm thinking of that Gandhi quote: "Be the change you want to see." They're
Yes,
exemplars. That their
absolutely.
legacy isn't just in how much money they can leave behind or a building or something. It's a being in the world. They recognize they want to be more of that building, and so they come to you sort of intuitively knowing that. And how are you helping them be even more of that?
I think for most people, they haven't even started being it.
Okay, right.
They
Yeah.
haven't given themselves permission. Most people
Mm,
are so programmed that it's all about hard work and focus. And it, if you're not tired, you're not doing a good job.
yes.
I
Yeah.
mean, honestly, we're past that. We've now got new options available to us. Let's leverage them. Let's create a life where it's not me against you, it's me with you. And I can do this by being compassionate, creative, collaborative, working with these principles to lift my energy, to do what I love. It will lift my immune system. It will make me be more creative. I'll be more resilient, patient. I'll have more powers of communication to tap in with other people.
Yeah.
There is no end to what this has the potential to bring into our lives if we choose to explore it. But what we've got to do, from my perspective and what I'm doing, is to unlearn everything we've been told about the way the
Absolutely.
world works. Once we're prepared to do that, and very few people are prepared to do that yet, they're not exhausted enough to, they haven't striven enough. But once they realize there is this new potential, they'll be flocking because it's, why didn't I know about this before?
It's so funny what you're saying. I resonate with it so much. The most common piece of feedback I get from my clients, people who come on my programs, is why didn't I know about this before?
Mm.
Right? It's incredibly simple, but it's not easy, right? Because it is subtractive, right? Because you're taking things away, right? As in, oh, I don't need to do that anymore. Oh, I don't need to do that anymore. I don't need to do that anymore. And then you get what we nickname the secret sauce, right? You feel like you've tapped into this secret sauce where actually all these things are possible. All the very things that you were striving for, grinding for, trying to get to, it's almost like I call it creating magically. I kind of that they just start to appear.
Yeah,
Once the
yeah.
seeking and
You'll
striving has
flow.
gone, there they are on the other side of the shadow. They're there, and people are like, "Oh wow! If only I had seen this before, I would have cut out on 2 decades of, you know,
Yeah,
striving and seeking and working hard and grinding and psychological efforting."
absolutely. But however, I would like to just tweak one of the things you say. It's not easy because it's abstractive. I would like to think that if you want to be excited, if you want to be uplifted, if you want to feel a fire in your belly, then it can be really easy.
Oh, yeah, I think what I mean by simple, not easy, is the core way to describe what it is incredibly simple, right?
Yeah.
Now, what I mean by it's not easy is all the afters we add in with the thinking mind of how we think we need to get there. Because what we're saying, if we boil it right, if we boil it right back, right, is that there is this what you describe as unified field, what I describe as just consciousness or the source available, which we all are, every single one of us,
Mm.
and the and then and when we're in that at base level, like as a small child, we're just in that flow. We're just in that beautiful flow. And the only thing that takes us out of that flow, in the way I describe it, is when we self-identify, when the thinking self-mind comes in and tries to do it thinking it's a separate entity that it has to seek or protect, right? And there's a resistance to the isness when we do that. And whenever there's a resistance to the isness because of self-identification, it takes us out of that, what you would call higher frequency 5D, back into the kind of thinky head mind, right?
Yeah.
And then we're back to the 3D or whatever. We're back in a more contracted aperture. And at one level, you know, I've articulated that in 2 minutes. It's simple at that level. It's not easy because of the conditioning that we've all had, that, you know, when we were born, quite quickly someone's going to tell us, you've got to do that, you go to school to learn that, you do that, hard work, all the things that you pointed to, right? So that's what makes it not easy, because of our conditioning. As soon as we see through our conditioning, which can only really happen through realization, you can't think your way out of your conditioning, only through realization. Once those things are realized, then you see it and you're like, oh, that's available. I was kind of running the system the wrong way. As you said at the beginning, it's the paradigm shift. And then this synchronicity and serendipity sort of comes online more. There's more co-creating with everything. And we go from me to we, which is another thing you mentioned. And society then can, you know, yes, there might be some polarization in society. That's fine.
It's a transition stage.
It's a transition.
We've got to cross the bridge.
Yeah, but the more people are seeing this, the more the collective consciousness will
the energetic field is in training.
That's a nice way of putting it. It's like the national grid, isn't it? The more, you know, we can put into this, hopefully it will
resonance.
It will resonate through. So let's now finish on something super practical. So if people have managed to stay with us more or less through this episode, what is one or two really kind of simple, practical things that you might point people to put a bow on this conversation, to help them see a little more or tune in a bit more?
I would put it in really simple terms. Shift out of your head and into your heart.
Nice.
Focus on what you can do versus what you can't.
Mm-hmm.
What makes you feel good. And look to your presence. So when you're in the past, when you're in the future, you're in your head and you're taking your power away. When you're in your fully present moment, you're rooted, you're more able to tap into the field as well. So joy gives you the connection. Presence gives you the space to receive. If your mind is constantly busy, you cannot, even if you tap in, you cannot hear.
Yes. And I would say, I love what you said about presence and joy. And I would say, when we are present, joy just seems to turn up more, right? So isn't it funny? So when we are not in our thinking mind, guess what's there? Peace and joy. It just, you don't even have to find it. It rocks up in a simple cup of tea, or a simple just looking at a tree. There it is. You don't find it. It's there anyway.
Yeah.
It was always hiding behind, but we just weren't present, so we didn't see it
or feel it.
Yeah, exactly. So absolutely. So thank you so much. That the time's whipped by, as it always does. Really enjoyed the conversation. Lots of things we could have gone into and probably didn't, but hopefully, listeners, this was a nice sort of fireside chat, ramble through a few things that you resonated with. Caroline, is it okay if I can put some of your details in the show notes if people want to reach out? And
absolutely, yeah.
Is there any best way to get hold of you? Is there any preferred way?
No, email is absolutely fine. You know, the old tried and tested. It always arrives, except when it doesn't.
Is that when, I was about to say that. Is that when it doesn't? Because this morning it didn't between you and I. So apart from that, it normally does. Yes.
Yes. And thank you so much for the invitation to participate. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I loved it. All right. So listeners, thanks again to Carolina, and everyone, have fun being curious, and catch you next time.
If you enjoyed listening to this podcast and want to know more, check out our website at qualityofmind.biz. And also feel free to reach out and leave us a review or a comment. Until next time, have fun being curious.